Brought to you by Penguin.
The Girl from Pit Lane. Written by Gracie Hart. Read by Anne Dover. The moral right of the author has been asserted. Chapter 1. Woodlesford Village, near Leeds, 1857. "Stop your bloody brat from gawping at me!" Bill Parker snarled at his wife Sarah, as her daughter Mary Ann watched her stepfather greedily eat the stew that had been gently bubbling over the coal fire for most of the day. The gravy was running down his chin, making tracks on his black, coal-dusted skin. "Mary Ann, go and help your sister with the water for your father's bath." Sarah gave a warning glance to her oldest daughter, knowing that Bill was in no mood to be challenged. He'd been drinking since the end of his shift down the pit, and was now the worse for wear. A time the whole family knew to be wary of him, as drink did nothing for the usually mild-mannered man. "Yes, mother." Mary Ann needed no further prompting as she made for the back door of the small two-bedroom miner's cottage to their wash-house that adjoined the terraced house and was the refuge from their stepfather's wrath. She knew better than to say, "He's not my father." In truth, she'd only been staring at her stepfather as she'd been wishing that there'd be enough stew left over for her and her sister, as another supper of just bread crusts would be unbearable. But when Bill had come in, leery with drink, and in a mood as black as the coal dust that covered him, she knew better than to ask for even a taste of the stew that had tantalized her taste buds for most of the day. "Mind you and Eliza make sure the water's warm enough, and let your father eat his meal in peace." Sarah looked at her daughter, knowing that she understood to make herself and her sister scarce in order to protect them from their stepfather's anger. "Yes, mother." Mary Ann closed the door behind her and sighed as she stepped into the dark, freezing backyard, making her way to the attached wash-house where her younger sister was tending to the copper boiler, full of water to fill the tin bath for her stepfather to have his daily bath in. "Bill's back," Mary Ann sighed, and sat down heavily on the stool that was her usual hiding place when needed. "I take it he's the worse for drink, else you wouldn't be here with me." Eliza poked the burning embers underneath the huge copper boiler, which took up most of one of the corners in the wash-house, and wiped her brow free from the sweat that was trickling down her flushed face. "Aye, there'll be no reasoning with him. You've just to look at him tonight. I don't know why old Lewis, the landlord at the Boot and Shoe, doesn't tell him to get himself home earlier. He knows what it's like when he's had too much." Mary Ann looked at her sister, and was thankful that they were both in the relative safety of the wash-house, but she feared for their mother, who was left behind appeasing her drunken husband. "Lewis is just a greedy bastard, and Bill is easily led. He can't walk past the doors without feeling he's got to go in." Mary Ann sat down next to her sister and waited. Their stepfather would either appear for a wash in the tin bath that was next to them, or he'd hopefully be so drunk and dozy that he would go to bed after his supper. "Eliza, our real father would have belted you for saying words like that, and Mother still would if she heard you saying it." Mary Ann looked shocked at her younger sister. "You can't deny I'm right, though. And as for our true father, I sometimes worry that I can't even remember his sweet face. It's been so long since he died, and our lives have changed so much." Eliza put her head in her hands and fought back tears. "You were only young. I'm surprised you can remember him at all. I barely can, and I'm 2 years older than you." Mary Ann had been 9, and Eliza just 7, when their father had died, and their whole world had fallen apart. Their father had been a miner like Bill, but a rockfall at Rose Pit had cost him his life over 10 years hence. "Well, I do. And I curse the day our mother met Bill Parker. He's nothing but a drunken bully." Eliza lifted her head and spat out her words.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?